Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the wonderful world of aviation laws and regulations. Woohoo! I know you're all excited and I just can't wait to dive into this. So, before we begin, let me reassure you with a few or with three things. One, no one by the end of this class will be expected to sit on the bar for an exam. Two, I'm not a lawyer, though I do have 2 years of law school under my belt. Three, despite what you may have heard, federal regulation is only slightly more exciting than watching paint dry. But don't worry, we're going to make this class somewhat interesting. Whether you plan to become a pilot, a air traffic controller, an airport manager, a maintenance technician, an aviation executive, or simply want to understand why aviation has so many rules, well, you're in the right place. Most people think of aviation about airplanes, pilots, airports. That's true. But if aviation law keeps all those airports from trying to kill each other or to hit each other in the sky. Aviation law is a framework which helps the national airspace system make sure there's safe transit upon this world and equitable transfer around this world as well. Think of it this way. Every aviation regulation and law all started because somebody sat there and looked at his friend or looked at his buddy or thought to himself, I have an idea. Hold my beer. And shortly afterwards, someone else said, we need to make sure we get a regulation to stop that from ever happening again. Throughout this course, we will explore the legal principles that govern aircraft certification, pilot licensing, airport operations, air traffic control, airline responsibility, accident investigation, passenger rights, and emerging technologies as drones and advanced air mobility become into the forefront. You will soon discover that aviation law touches every aspect of life, regardless of where you are. So let us begin with a case, and sort of something we're going to be talking about this year in this class and some of the ideas. A case that was just recently fought over called Skeely versus Prescott Aeromotive Corporation. A small airplane crash led to the lawsuit against the manufacturer of an engine component. The key question became, if the FAA approved the design, can the manufacturer still be sued for it? The manufacturer's position essentially was, in a dumbed down version, hey, if the FAA approved it, so we're good. And the plaintiff's position was, maybe not so fast. Maybe they don't have that as their job. Maybe you're the professional and they're just trying to make sure the rules are set for it. Of course, eventually the courts ruled that the federal government does not automatically shield manufacturers through a regulation for liability under state law. So what does that teach us? First, teaches FAA certification. It is important. Two, lawyers can turn a simple, easy question into years of litigation. And three, aviation law often involves a delicate balance between acting safely with regulations and accountability. This case creates a core principle you'll see repeatedly throughout this semester. Just because something is legal doesn't mean the discussion is over with. Aviation law is a conversation. It's the start of a conversation, not the ending of it. It's just the beginning. So, as I said earlier, I want to try to make this fun and interesting. So here's how it's going to work. And yeah, I did use those two words in the same sentence, law and fun. Yeah. So, but believe it or not, aviation can be very fascinating. It involves many questions. Let's ask ourselves this question. You should fantasize. You should give you some issues in your thought on how they resolve themselves. Can state regulate something the federal government already regulates? Who pays when the accident occurs? What happens when a pilot makes a mistake? What happens when a manufacturer makes a mistake? What happens when nobody agrees on who makes a mistake? Sometimes the entire court case is resolved around one question that is simple, sounds so simple until you start digging around them. And if you read federal regulations, you will learn that one sentence can keep attorney busy for years. So what do I expect from you? I encourage you, please ask questions, challenge ideas, participate in our discussions that we have on Thursdays. and don't be afraid to disagree respectfully. Some cases we will study will have easy answers. Smart judges, experienced attorneys, airline executives, pilots, engineers, and regulations have been there for decades and have been issues too for decades, but they're not always guaranteed to be there. Sometimes we can have a judge who's adult or a lawyer who comes up with some crazy arguments. This world is full of them sometimes. So well, you got to think to yourself, so if you ever, I'm sorry, so if you ever find yourself thinking to yourself when we're reading some of this case and when we're going over aviation law, we're trying to figure things out, and we say, wait a second, that doesn't seem fair. Well, congratulations. You are thinking like a lost. By the end of this course, you will be looking at aviation and you'll never look at aviation the same way again. That'll be completely different. You'll be able to see the nuances that are out there in regulations and why they're important. Every runway, every aircraft, every pilot certificate, every maintenance record, every regulation has a legal story behind it. Someone said, hold my beer. You begin to see aviation just not as a system of planes and of people, but of systems of responsibility, rights, and decisions and consequences. Perhaps most importantly, you'll understand that almost every legal question is answered with this. Well, it depends. In fact, if you forget everything else in this course, you learn nothing else. And please pray that you remember that phrase. May help you become a better pilot. A pilot will make you sound like an attorney. You might be asked as a pilot, is this weather safe? Well, your answer should always be, well, it depends. And then we have to figure out what it depends on. So fasten your seatbelts and place your trays in upright positions. Make sure they're locked and ready to go. Ensure you have a copy of your federal aviation regulations to read for emotional support. As your air traffic controller for this course, I am pleased to report the skies are clear. You have unlimited visibility and favorable legal conditions. Aviation 034 has cleared you for takeoff. Welcome aboard and have a great semester. Provide your feedback to me at any time via email. You all know it. It's p adams at valleycollege.edu. Contact me. Give me a call. You should even go to the our what do we call it, our syllabus, and look for my phone number. You can always give me a call or give me an email or text me, whatever. I'm here for you all. I'm there to help. I'm really interested in your feedback and trying to make you a better pilot to make the sky safer because I'm a pilot as well. I want you all to be safe up there with me. So before we end this little opening remarks and we start thinking, remember that every Thursday at 2 o'clock, we're going to have a live Zoom meeting just like this, which I will record and put on our syllabus so that you could always watch if you are unable to make it in personally. But I'm going to hold you requireable to all that. I'm also going to hold you requireable to every thing on Thursday that I give you to read and what I need you to fill out in your workbooks. Make sure you get all your the books that are required for this course. There's only two of them. You have a hardbound and you have a workbook. I need you to have a copy of those or to be able to get a copy of those so that you can write the answers and give me responses and actually do some reading and learn about the some of the things we're working on. I won't be hitting chapter by chapter. I'll be sparsing it out because you don't need to have that complete knowledge for this particular course. You will if you go on to be a lawyer, but I'm going to get the important things that you need to know well enough so that when you do become that pilot, you become a really good and professional pilot and keep yourself out of trouble with those feds. So let me end this complete discussion with this little story. Pilot is sitting next to his examiner on a check, and he looks up at the examiner and all excited and ready to go. The examiner stops and looks at him and says, let me ask you a few questions. Since you prepared for this check ride, I'm pretty sure you're good to go. But can you give me a little bit of your knowledge about federal regulations? What's the most important thing you remember about aviation regulations? About the student smiled and looked at him and said, started reside regulations on definitions of airspace, A, B, C, and D, and airspace and what the requirements are going in. You let them know about tomato flames or flames and all the equipment required for a different flight. You let them know about all certificate requirements. And the DPE was, wow, this guy really knows stuff, but That's really not what I asked you. And after several minutes, the examiner looked at me and goes, okay, that's all very impressive. But but the most important regulation is a simple one. Do not give the FAA a reason to learn your name. Now, I know that's not an actual regulation. Believe me, it's one we just made up, and it's important for the joke to actually work for it to fit. But it's true. We never want to give the FAA a reason to even know our name. I have spent my entire career, not once has the FAA ever said, "What is that guy doing? What was he thinking?" I never got a letter from him. Everything's been good. Now, most people spend their entire career without having this. It's just like, however, aviation law often begins when someone decides to break those rules by merely suggesting, hey, I could fly in this weather. I don't need to avoid it. Or a mechanic signs off work that, did I do that the last bolts? Or I think I did. Or a company cuts corner and says, man, we need to save some money. Maybe we can do like double occupancy on this one. And just one time will be okay. Or an airport ignores safety concerns. We need to get more people flying in this airport, or we're going to lose our thing. So we need to get going. So maybe we could cut this little stop here because it's really not important. Well, if it wasn't important, it would be a regulation. It wouldn't be required. So then, when any of those things happen, a student or suddenly a lawyer, an investigator, regulator, judges, insurance companies all become very interested in aviation. And as we all discovered throughout this course, aviation regulations are often a response to that lesson learned the hard way. In aviation, regulations are often undefeated. So let's have a beautiful semester. Let's rock and roll, and I will see you all Thursday. Try to make it as many of you can. Try to make it Thursday. I got some important things to lay down. If not, definitely watch a replay and then make sure you get back to me. I'm going to give credit for everyone who shows up on Thursday. And if you want me to add a class, you better be there Thursday because I'm not really in. We got a pretty full class, so I'd love to add as many as I possibly can. Peace out, everyone. Valley up, and let's do this.